as Google Geo for Good 2023 Summit, and he presented a very great project. He's also a lead of awesome Google Attention data catalog, and he's going to show us a lot more about that. So this time I'm going to give this opportunity to Samapriya Roy, and he's going to give a short introduction about himself, whatever he does, and the community that he leads, and then from there he's going to take over the session. So welcome, Sam.
Thank you so much. I'm hoping everyone can hear me okay. And I
Yeah, you can.
apologize for being late. This seems to be two links I had, one in my email invite, which was a very different link. So I joined that one initially. That's why I'm a little bit late here. But thank you for having me. And it's a pleasure to join the community and give a talk about the community catalog, talk about Google Earth Engine Geo for Good 2023 highlights, and introduce you all to what the community catalog actually is and what it actually does. So just to give a brief introduction about what I do for a daytime job. So I am a senior product manager at a company called Maxar. Maxar collects high-resolution satellite imagery for around the world. So most of the imagery that you see on Google Earth, for example, is collected by either Maxar or Airbus. And I work for one of those companies, which is Maxar. Before that, I used to be at a company called Planet, which also collects a lot of satellite data. And as a part of that, I guess like I get to play with a lot of satellite data. So while I was in my, I think, 2020, there was a lot of push and there was a lot of impetus for everyone using the data sets that were already in Google Earth Engine. But one thing I was noticing was if you were submitting a data request into Google Earth Engine data catalog, it was taking a while for those to actually appear, right? And the other thing that I realized was Earth Engine has its own agenda in terms of the fact that they had their own list of data sets that they were prioritizing, rather than users being able to actually voice and say like, hey, we really need this. This is more important, which may not have been a priority for their team to actually handle. And their team was also not very large. So as a result of that, I think I started Community Catalog as a side project that I was doing every evening and on the weekends. And I'm just going to share my screen and I'm going to walk you through what the Community Catalog is. I like open conversations. So think of this as more like a conversation that I'm having with you. If you have questions in between, please feel free to unmute and ask those questions. I'm completely okay to stop and do that. I also have a few slides, but mostly I just like doing a live demo. So I'm just going to do a few of the slides and then I'm going to switch to a live demo. So again, if you have any questions, just ask me. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And hopefully, let's see, Brave, Windows, let's see. Okay. Can people see my screen okay? I'm just going to zoom. Yes, there's no response. Okay.
It's missing.
It's missing, you said?
Yeah. Yes,
It's okay now?
Okay, I'm just going to share the full screen. Is that better?
No, it's okay.
That's better.
Okay, good. So the Community Catalog lives, it's an unfunded project, so it's not really funded by Google or anyone else, by the way, just so everyone is aware. I work on this as something that I think I wanted to contribute some time to. The idea was that if we can create a catalog that is powered by the community, right, where you can come in and you have a better voice and say like, hey, I collected this data set in this part of the world and I want to make it available within Google Earth Engine, how would I do that, right? And I think this was the easiest way for me to facilitate that process, where I basically went and I said, hey, can I actually do this for the community? Can I actually go and collect the data sets that the community thinks is important, whether it's from a paper, whether it's something they collected themselves, whether it's something that's on a website, but they really need it in Google Earth Engine. So that's where the Community Catalog actually comes in. So it lives alongside the main catalog, but it allows you access to these additional data sets that are available, that are not available in the primary catalog. And I'm going to go through and talk through some of those data sets as well, and when I actually go into the main, the main live demo. Okay, so what exactly does the community catalog actually have in terms of feature? Well, you can actually search and use data sets similar to how you can search and use data sets in the main catalog. They are organized by categories, so you can actually find things like, hey, I want soil data sets versus I want hydrology data sets or fire data sets or earthquake data sets. You can actually look for things like that. You can filter by keywords. We actually do have some work ongoing to create a Stack compliant metadata. I know a few of you might be using Stack. So there's a lot of effort that's going on that I'm working on to basically make all of these data sets available as a Stack browsable catalog. So if you're using Stack, and if you know what Stack is, then you'll be happy to know that this catalog will also have a representation in the Stack. And there's also example code repository. So one of the key features that makes the Earth Engine catalog very useful is the fact that when you first join Earth Engine, right, and there's an examples folder that's available to you that's under your readers section. And the example folder contains essentially an example of every single data set that they have in Google Earth Engine. And we have something similar where we have a repository that people can add to their own pages. Like it'll be added as a reader's repository as well. And then you can actually look at the code. And the best part, and the part that I'm really proud of about the community catalog, is the fact that it's completely open to the community to contribute. So I don't have the same list of priorities that Google might have in terms of saying this data set is more important, this data set is less important. I am not doing that prioritization. What I'm actually doing is I'm requesting the community and saying, hey, you tell me which data set you think is important, right? And which is under an open license. I obviously have to keep in mind that the data has to be under an open license because I cannot host something that's proprietary for obvious reasons, right? You can suggest a data set, any data set that you want. If you have an existing data set that you want updated, you can also submit an update to the data set. You can write an example and say hey, I have a code contribution that I want to contribute. So you can provide us with an example, and I can again walk you through this when I go through the main actual live demo. These are all the data set category. You don't have to read it here. You can actually go to the website to look at the categories. The categories keep changing. As of November 1st, this is the catalog stats. So the main catalog has about 90 petabytes of data, right? Our community catalog has about 332.75 terabytes of data, and has about 1 million+ images, 458 image collections, and over 1 billion+ features in the catalog. So it's a lot of data that's made available within the community catalog as well. I'm not going to go through this, but this is essentially showing that I do these efforts once every week. So basically I stitch together all of the data that was available for a 4-month period. And I said, what would it look like if I took all of those data sets and combined it into a moving GIF? So this is essentially that. And the community catalog today has been accessed by over 200+ global regions in the world. And it's accessed in all countries across everywhere in the world, over 6,400 cities and towns all over. So really proud of that part. So I'm going to do a live demo. If people want to, they can go to this link. I'm going to hold it for about 5 seconds or 10 seconds, let everyone type it out. But people can actually join me in doing this demo as well. So I'm just going to wait 10 seconds. Okay. I'm going to switch over to the community catalog. This will be the main page. And again, tell me if I'm going to increase the size a little bit. Tell me if this is okay, or if you're seeing this as half or cut out or something. I can always change my screen size or something like that. Does this look okay?
Yes, this is okay.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is what the community catalog page looks like, right? So you remember the Earth Engine main catalog, right? And let's go to the main catalog, or actually this is already has a link to this. So this is the Earth Engine main catalog. I am sure many of you have actually used this, or a few of you have probably not gone here, but directly called for data sets in the code editor. So for example, if I type here fire, you will get all the data sets for our fire, right? This is from the main catalog. Similarly, in the community catalog, the way in which I've arranged this is there is the population data set, socioeconomic, all of these data sets, but you can also search by fire. So you have a similar search capability in terms of like what is available to you in the community catalog as well. But more importantly, let me walk you through a little bit about what powers the community catalog and how you can actually get started. So there's a getting started section right here. If you click on that, there's a section on navigating the catalog. And what navigating the catalog does is it slowly explains step by step how you can go to individual individual assets, how you can search for certain things, how you can use certain tools to look within the catalog to find certain assets. So if you wanted to look at, for example, shoreline, you can actually type shoreline and it will show you all the data sets that it has on shorelines, for example. You can also, I remember I said that there's an example repository. So if you go to the Access AwesomeGE community catalog repo, there's a link here. And if you click on that link, what will happen is this will open up a new repository in your Readers tab. For me, it will be in my Owners tab, and I'm going to show everyone what this will look like. Okay. So this is what the community catalog will look like, but instead of Owners, it'll appear in the Readers section for you. So whatever is your reader, look there once you have actually accepted the repository. And this is where all the examples for all the data sets that are included are in there as well. So if I wanted to, for example, go into elevation bathymetry, let's say, and I want to go into FABDEM, and I can click on a certain example and click run. And hopefully this will, yeah, it's actually adding the data set. It's a little slow because this is a really heavy data set, but the point being that it'll basically follow the same steps, the same way in which it'll render with the main catalog, where you have the data set and you have an example. You have that here as well. And this is what I'm talking about, right? Like for the main catalog, if you go to your readers right now, there is always, sorry, actually, it's not even in the readers. There's an examples folder, which has all of their like image collection, feature collection, all of those things, right? Similar to that, we have this this collection that we are showing right now, where you can go in and say like, hey, I want to look at elevation bathymetry data, or I want to look at like population socioeconomic data, and I want to do like Landscan global, for example. You know, I want to add that example and click run, and then it'll suddenly add the new data set. So these are data sets that are not available in the main catalog. These are made available because someone in the community, someone like you, have actually requested these data sets to be added. And I went through the data set. I made sure that it's available. So I ingested it. I actually made it available using an ingestion process. Okay, so going back here. So this is what I recommend, you know, like click on the getting started section, go to the Access repo part, and then clicking on this link that says link to add example repo to your reader repository list. Now, for some users, I've noticed that they have had some issues where even though they click on this, it doesn't show up on the reader list. Please let me know, because that is one of those places where there's a bug that has been known to the Google Earth Engine community for a while, and they've been trying to fix this. So if that doesn't happen for you, if that doesn't work for you for some reason, please let me know. Okay. And here, actually, I have included steps on, let's say that you have a data set that you really think is important or is valuable to bring. I've actually provided steps on how to bring your own data set, right? And it's very simple. Like I was saying, that this whole catalog is actually powered by a project on GitHub. And how you can get there is if you like hover to the right-hand side, you'll notice that on the right-hand side, it says G catalog, and there's a link to, there's a Git, basically like a logo. So you right click and say open link in new tab. And this will open the GitHub page. And the GitHub page is where you will come and submit any data request. And you will already notice that there's already some data request that, or there's a bug report, or there's some data requests that are already pending here. But if you wanted to create a new issue, right? Let's say that you found that, okay, something is really important for your research. You think that it's also valuable to the entire community. You really want this to be part of the community catalog. You can click on the new issue. And when you go to the new issue, you will get all of these templates, right? And think about what you're contributing. If this is something that you created, right? You say like, bring your own data set to GE catalog. Or maybe this is something that you didn't create, but you think that this is an amazing paper and this data set should be in like in the community catalog for everyone in the world to use. You can actually just suggest a new community data. So let's say we do a suggest new community data for the community catalog. There's a button here that says get started. So you can just click on get started. And you will notice that it creates like a form that you can fill in, right? So let's say I want to fill in a new data set request for updated. Let's say I want to create an updated shoreline data set global. And I'm just making up, right? I'm just creating an example here, right? Here you can give your email address. So I'm just going to give my email address. Here you can give a data set description. This is Markdown. You can write it as simple text, by the way. You don't have to worry about what you're including. And let's actually find some data set, right? Like, let's actually make this a little more interesting. So let's say we want to do global shoreline data. Okay, there's some shoreline coastal database or something here. And you found out that there is a download version here, so you can download the latest data set here. So I found that there's the data set here. Now I want to submit this for, So I come here, I copy this link, and basically I go back to the submission page that I was doing right now. Okay, I said there is a global shoreline data set at this location. You can paste the link and say, and it would be great to include this into the community catalog. Some of the things that I've asked for basically are description, right? So if you have a lot of description, like let's say it comes from a paper, you can say this data set has been created by Noah or something, or anyone else, like, and then what you can do is most of the times the data sets that I'm accepting are scientifically, like they actually have a scientific paper or a citation or something like that. It really is helpful because then I know that it comes from an authoritative source, right? So let's say that, for example, if this data set came from a paper, or this is the name of the data set, once in a while on their website, it'll tell you where it's coming from. But the other thing that you can also do is I can actually look at global, let's see, it's a global NOAA shoreline data, right? This is my little hack. I will actually go to scholar.google.com sometimes, and I paste that. And sometimes I'll find like, okay, someone actually has presented some papers on this, and maybe like NOAA itself has created some sort of, paper on this, right? And I choose one of the papers and click on the cite button, and you can actually get the citation. Now, this is a bad example because NOAA probably has its own citation, but you get my point that you can actually choose a data set and you can give me the citation. So the citation really is helpful with that piece. The other thing, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Does someone have a question? Let's see. Okay. I am going to go back to this. Okay. So let's see. For the asset name. Okay, so here, if you have, for example, the data set is already in your personal collection, sometimes what you do is maybe you're working on a project and you have actually ingested the data set and it's already in your personal namespace, right? Like, let's say that I already have this in my personal namespace in my assets collection, right? I have it in my, I don't know, like I have this data set that I really want to like donate or make available within the community catalog, you can actually share that path too. If not, what you can do is you can just leave it as is. You don't have to change anything here. Then comes the next piece, which is the most important piece, is license information.
Hi, Sam.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, your screen is not visible on our side.
Sorry, what?
Your screen is not visible on our side. You can
Really?
can stop and represent.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let's see. Tell me if it's visible again.
All right, it's okay now.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I don't know how much of that you got or how much of that you all missed, but this is what I was showing. Did you actually see how to create a new issue?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
It was just, I think, a few seconds, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, you can come here. License becomes a really important piece of the data set. One of the things that we wanted to make sure, or I wanted to make sure, was that it's under an open license, and there's a reason for that, right? If it's under some sort of a very restrictive license or something, or if the license says that I cannot redistribute the data or I cannot share the data publicly with other people in the world, that I have to be extra careful. Now, there are license types that are still allowed. So there are some licenses like CC by NC. And by the way, if you ever see CC by, it literally just means Creative Commons, right? And you can always Google this. CC by 4.0 is a license type that's under the Creative Commons main page, and it'll actually tell you what this means and all of those things. It'll basically give you all of the information on what you can and cannot do. So you're free to share, adapt, attribution, blah, blah, blah. But if I also look for license types, licenses, and tools, you'll get a whole list of other licenses. And this is one of the more restrictive licenses, for example. CC by NC stands for non-commercial use. So some companies will provide the data open source, but it's under a non-commercial license, which means that no one else can use it for any commercial purposes. There's CC by NC, SA by CC by ND, and those kind of things. Most of these licenses will still allow us to share the data. And the important part is to make sure that the license allows for this kind of sharing to happen, because if that's not the case, then we cannot actually make this data set available in the community catalog. The same applies to the main catalog as well. They cannot pick a license that's very restrictive or under some sort of a non-commercial or do not share kind of a license. So make sure you put the license information. In this case, I know, for example, that NOAA is a public agency, and it usually releases everything in an open license. If I go to the README, and this is really small, so I'm just going to increase this, it's under the lesser GNU public license. So it's okay, that's fine. I'll just copy this, and I'll come back to the new issue, and I'll just replace this text here. So once you're done, and I'm just going to say, what does it actually say? It says it's coastline, NOAA, anything else that you want to, and then you just click on, I agree to follow this project's code of conduct. And you can read the code of conduct if you wanted to. There's a whole set of code of conduct right here at the very end, I believe. Right here, actually, yeah. So once I'm done with this, I click on agree, and then you can click on submit new issue. Now I'm going to submit this. I'll delete this issue later, but I'm just going to hit submit. Okay. So the moment you hit submit, I get a notification, I get emails, alerts, all of those things. And this now becomes an issue that's available to me on GitHub. And I can come in and say okay, I'm looking at these details. I will go through this. It'll take, because it's only me, I'm the only one who's working on the community catalog. There isn't really a team of people. So it's just me doing all of this work. Sometimes it can take about a week or two in getting to a specific request. There's also other requests that are waiting in queue. So sometimes I'll not get to it immediately. So be a little bit patient, but I try to get to them as quickly as possible because I try to work on them over the weekends. And this is where I also do the conversations, right? So imagine that you submitted this to me. I will be able to also chat with you and say, hey, and I'll tag you and say, I feel like this is missing something, or hey, this is great, I think this is available. Once this is once I actually work on a specific project, I make it available, and then it becomes part of the community catalog. So this is the entire process by which you can submit a data set that you think is important, and has all of these pieces of information available and say like, hey, I really think that this is useful for the larger audience. The goal of this whole setup is not so much that you can submit like data sets that are relevant to your personal research only, but you think that it's also beneficial to the larger community, right? Because we want to make sure that it's beneficial to the larger community. Okay, any questions about submission of data to the GitHub repo? I want to wait for a few seconds and see if there's any questions there. Okay, if not, we'll go back to the community catalog. Okay, so you can go through the getting started, other sections of getting started on how to submit like a bug report or example. They're pretty much the same way, and you can submit them. The next thing is there are a few other links, so you can actually read some of the blogs that I've published over the period of time. This project has been live for the last about 3 years at this point. The website actually only went live like last year. So before that, there was only a GitHub page with but this time now there's like an actual web page, and you can, like share it and make it available to others if you wanted to. Obviously, if you find the community catalog useful, you can also star the repo, because that actually helps with the algorithm, and then GitHub will actually show it to more people, and the more people see, the more people use, the more there will be like, it's a feedback loop, right? The more they'll contribute data sets, and the more data sets will become available to you. Okay. So going through population and socioeconomic data, like I was telling you, so for every single data set, there's a whole data set description that's actually mentioned. If you click on a specific data set, it'll tell you some of the important information about a data set. It'll usually give you a reference information, which is the citation information that I was asking about. It will link to some of the data sets as well. And then there's an Earth Engine snippet. Earth Engine snippet usually has the links to the path. It basically is the path to all of these collections. So I can actually copy this and take this over to code editor, and I can start coding. Or better still, there's also those example code, the sample code that I was showing you. So you can just open a new tab. And this is from Facebook or from Meta. And this is the 30-meter high resolution settlement layer. So if I run this, it'll take a few seconds, but hopefully it'll run. Yeah, okay, there you go. So it's actually going in and getting those data sets, and you'll notice that this is now available. So this is really easy for anyone to getting started with a specific data set. They're like, okay, I'm not so sure what this data set is coming from, or the Landscan data, for example. I can click on that, and I can read what the Landscan data set is. So there's like a data set description, there's a citation, and then it'll have exactly the same format. So there's always a snippet, and then there's a sample code. If there's more than one data type, I will break it up into multiple snippet types. So for example, this one is Landscan Global, there's a Landscan US, and then there's a Landscan HD, if people wanted to look at that. There is vulnerability mapping. So this one, for example, it'll give you, for example, a population exposure index, and it gives you like the citation again, and Earth Engine snippet, and you have sample code. And you can click on the sample code again and click run, and theoretically it should run. And anyways, my run speed might just be limited to the fact that I might be on an internet that's slower because of the fact that I'm actually also streaming right now. So, okay, and it'll give you the license. This is what I was talking about. So I actually make sure that whatever license this data is shared under, I make sure that that's actually available here. Okay. Again, going back to regional land use and land cover. So if you wanted to look at, for example, SANLC data, and you wanted to go to this data set page, click on run. Yeah. So this will basically add the dataset page, and you can actually look at like 2018, 2020 land use land cover model that was available. And you can read about it. You can actually read through the sources. You can read through the pages. Most of the times, I'll actually even tell you where I downloaded the dataset from. Those kind of things are available here. So yeah, most of the work that is being done right now on the community catalog is related to this idea that the more data set we collect from the community, the better it is to have a representation, a voice of the community in the data set space as well, right? Because the main catalog has a lot of data sets and a lot of very useful data sets that are usually very global, very applicable. But here, what we want to do is we don't want to exclude any data set and say, this is important, this is not important. I want to highlight data sets the community or you all as users think are really important and want to be here. So for example, hydrology, there's like a bunch of hydrology data sets, and I heard that people are interested in these hydrology data sets. So for example, the HAND data set, global nearest height above the nearest drainage data set from GENA, that's actually available here. GloBATHY data sets, so global lakes bathymetry data set is also available, so people can actually do that. GloBATHY actually is now available as part of the work I've been doing with the main catalog piece. So that's also available in the code editor directly. But that's like a few examples of like data sets that I'm working with, trying to make it available in the main catalog as well. There's also like channel belt, global river delta, stream flow reconstruction. It's a long list. There's about, and I'm just going to go to the main page, there's about 1,429 data sets. That's actually more than the number of data sets that the main catalog has in terms of sheer number. Obviously, in terms of sheer volume, the main catalog is many times larger, right? It's like 90 petabytes. I don't even come close to a single petabyte yet. And then there's also like, let me go to a global land cover data set. So there's like the Esri data set, there's ESA world cover data set, quality. Let's actually look at the world settlement footprint. This one is a nice one. There's all of these descriptions. There's paper citation, data citation. Again, a lot of this is provided so that users can read what is the source of the data. If I have modified something, I'll also write that, hey, I changed this thing in the data set because there was maybe the data sets were in this thousands of tiles, and maybe I stitched them all together into a single image because it was better to use that in the Earth Engine space. And then I can click on sample code. And if I go to the sample code, let's see. Yeah, there you go, world settlement layer. If I click on run, basically it should add all of these data sets. So this is, for example, yeah, the settlement layer, and this is really interesting. And again, yeah, if you go too far, then it doesn't really look that pretty, right? But it gives you an evolution from like 1985 to 2015. This was released by the European Space Agency. So these have also been ingested. Sometimes I will also make dataset ingestions without anyone requesting it, because sometimes I'll see someone like post about a dataset on LinkedIn, or someone messages me on Twitter or something like that. And I will often go and say like, okay, this is great. I want to make sure that this dataset is available for people to use. So I will go and ingest that dataset as well. So yeah, that's the community catalog. I can talk a little bit about the Geo4Good right now, but I also wanted to take a few minutes and see if there are questions about the community catalog itself. And then I'll go through some of the updates from the Geo4Good. I'm going to be using actually like Tyler's post that Tyler had actually made about the Geo4Good highlights, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if people have questions about the community catalog itself.
Okay. So thank you very much, Sam. So
Yeah, no problem. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have one question regarding the data update. How often is the data updated so that it can capture the changes that are occurring in the seasons? Yes.
So the data is updated based on whatever the data provider tells me. So sometimes, like I have a ticket, right? Like you created, like you saw that I created a ticket that had a version number, right? Like 3.2 point something. And I came back and I said like, okay, this is a version number for a data set right now, but you suddenly know that there is a newer version that's available. I rely on the community to create a new ticket and says, hey, can you update this data set? But I will also go oftentimes and like I'll personally go and check sometimes certain links. So for example, the Facebook data set is updated actually quite frequently, depending on whether or not it's available. And then there is the drought monitor data set that I also update quite frequently. Landscan data set is updated every year because they release one data set every year. So it really depends on specific data set, but I try my best to make sure that it's as updated as it can be. I see that there was a question from someone, I think Jonathan or someone.
Yeah. Jonathan had raised a hand. Okay. Probably you'll come back.
Okay, sounds good. Again, I posted the link to the catalog if people want to take a look. Let me know if there's any feedback. I'm always happy to chat about it. And again, it's built for the community at large, right? So this is my whole experience of building this whole piece, and it's a lot of work because like just trying to get data from all of these different sources. Some people have data sets on their hard drive. Some people have data sets on FTP sites, on downloads that are like so slow. Like I'll tell you a story recently where I was downloading a data set. It was 168 gigabytes, and the download speed was about 1 megabytes per minute or something. And it took about 4 days to download that data. It was a lot of pain, even with like really fast internet. Like, and I have like access to high-speed internet, but it was just super slow, and I was like, that part hasn't changed. And I think that was one of the motivations why I started this project, was because I come from India, right? When I was downloading data sets back in India, I remember the time when I was downloading a Landsat collection, and a single Landsat image took an hour to download. So this is also a good way for us to show that, hey, this is a way to basically bring those data sets that others may not have to download and go through the painful process of processing that 168 gigabytes, because I've been able to make it available for anyone to use within the community catalog. So, but it's a story. Like I have lots of stories like that where someone puts it on an FTP and the password has expired, but they've shared the FTP link with me. Happens all the time, So, okay. So going to Geo4Good now, and again, so first of all, if people are not able to attend the Geo4Good, I want you to know that you can register to watch on demand. So which means that you can actually go and click on like continue with Google or continue with your email or something. And then once you do that, you're basically, and I'm just going to sign in, continue with Google. I'm just going to sign in with my account. Once you're signed in, what will happen is if you go into basically let's see, speakers FAQ registered to watch on demand, you can actually put in your information and you'll be given basically a link to the on demand. Also, all of these is now available on Google's YouTube. YouTube actually has a playlist now. So let's see, Google Earth Outreach. Okay, so Google Earth Outreach, and let's see, I'm trying to think of, okay, you know what, let's just type Google Geo4Good.
Sampriya, would you like to share your screen?
Oh, yes, my bad. I
Thanks. No worries.
totally forgot. Thanks again. It's good because I was like, I was otherwise you would be seeing like what I'm watching on my YouTube. It's like mostly has food videos, food recipe videos going on. So, okay, if you look for Geo4Good 2023, okay, so Google Earth actually has an entire section here, which has all of these Google Geo4Good playlists. And you can click on the Google Geo4Good 2023, and all of these are listed here. So I'm just going to copy this link and paste it for people. You don't have to register or anything. This you can actually watch without even registering, but I'm just going to drop the link here so that others can actually follow through. Okay, but this one has all the talks that we are talking about. Some of the announcements that came through that people might have missed through. Tyler has really done a great job. Tyler used to be at Google. A few of you might already have known Tyler or spoken to Tyler or chatted with him over the period of time. He used to be really involved with Earth Engine and Python as a project. Some of the announcements that he had captured include the fact that there is now a new data set called the CloudScore Plus quality assessment tool. Quality assessment data sets that's available on the entire Sentinel-2 data set. You can actually.
Excuse me, Sam.
am I not sharing my data set of my page again, or?
Maybe you can
Sorry, go ahead.
zoom your screen.
You want me to zoom a little?
Maybe you can zoom your screen for visual. Zoom your screen.
Okay.
Maybe you can zoom your screen
Yeah. Can you see it now? Is it
a
better?
bit more.
Okay. Let's
You
see.
can zoom out more. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's okay now.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's a widescreen, so I understand that sometimes it looks really tiny on that. So I understand. Yeah. So the Cloud Score Plus is basically what this is Sentinel-2 harmonized. It's basically a cloud scoring mechanism. So apart from the, is there a question? Megha has a question. Megha, go ahead. Megha, if you're speaking, I can't hear you.
Hello, sir. Namaste.
Namaste.
I had an experience while accessing Sentinel data regarding cloud coverage.
Okay.
In the metadata, it was showing 5% of cloud coverage. But when I downloaded the image, it was more than 30-40% of cloud coverage for that particular image tile.
Okay.
So getting a doubt on the reliability of the metadata, what I'm getting through GEE.
Okay.
And
question. So there's a couple of things that we can talk about that. But here's the thing: when you look at the overall Sentinel image, did you download the full tile or did you download a portion of the tile?
no, I have downloaded complete tile of that.
Okay, and it still has more than what it's listed.
Yes, sir. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
So that might be very much possible because there is an algorithm that runs in the backend and it does estimations on what the cloud cover is, but it's not 100% on what the actual cloud cover might be. And the Cloud Score 2 actually gives you a probability score, which is slightly better in terms of thresholding and looking for those kind of situations. So let me just show you an example. By the way, I don't actually work for Google, so I don't actually know anything about how they're running the Google ingestion. Now, I just wanted to make that clear because I know that that's a question. People want to ask questions on like the main catalog data sets, and I was like, I don't actually know like much about apart from the fact that I know that the cloud cover is run locally at Google side because they have their own algorithms to run on top of that. So there's the Send to score. So for example, this one, what it does, and this one is not very great as an example because what I really wanted to create was a CS Plus data set. And okay. So what it's actually doing is it now has a clear threshold, right? So it actually has, and if people wanted to actually look at this data set, what this will give you is pixel quality score based on spectral distance from blah, blah, blah. But essentially what this means is you have a probability score of whether something is a cloud or not a cloud. And you can use this for better masking out clouds in your scenario. So not really sure. It still helps you filter based on metadata because it still doesn't actually give you that. The other option I would recommend is if people wanted to do that, is you can also create a local version of a cloud pixel. So you can actually take this cloud scoring, right? And say, give me all pixels where there's a 50% or more probability that that pixel is cloud. And let's do a pixel count and divide it by the total number of pixels in the overall image. So what you will get is a more updated version or more probabilistic updated version of the cloud score rather than using the metadata as a score. You can just write a function that basically does that attaches essentially the count of all the pixels that we think has a more than 50% probability of it being a cloud. That could be an easy way for you to map through the overall collection. Anyway, so yeah, have a look at the Cloud Score Plus. It's actually really cool. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the alternative, what you have suggested. Definitely would try with that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, let me know. The rise of Python. Okay, the rise of Python was an important one. As a few of you might have already been using GMap, I'm sure Krishang has actually given a talk pretty sure to the same audience. One of the things that became really important was that GMap will now be supported by basically the Earth Engine team. So basically, the Earth Engine team is going to be contributing code and going to be essentially writing pieces of the core functionalities. And you can actually go to the gmap.core. So that what they've actually done is that gmap has been split into two packages that separate the core and non-core functionality. And the reason for doing that was because the core functionality is something that the Earth Engine as a team wanted to maintain. So they're working right now with Quisheng to actually make sure that this is actually maintained properly by them rather than just by Quisheng, like just by one person. So it makes a lot of sense, I guess. There is also a new tool. For those of you who have missed this announcement, there is two new things. So there is a Get Pixel, and I'm just going to go into right now. Let's see. Let's just go into Code Editor, actually. This will be the best way to show you. So there is now, if you do Get Pixel, this is interesting because it's supposed to be listed in the, let's see, developers. Okay, so there is two new tools basically called Get Compute and Get Pixels. I was hoping that it'll be available in the main page, but I'm a little confused as to why it wouldn't be. Get Pixels. Yeah, there you go. e.data.getPixels. Yeah, Python only. That's fine. Yeah. So basically, what this means is that, oh, I actually understand now why it's not available. These are tools basically that allow a user to directly interact with the data as though it's a NumPy array, or it's basically an array space. Rather than having to export the data out, you can basically take a Jupyter notebook, and if you're familiar with Xarray, you can basically interact with the data directly in the array space. So what Alex did was Alex actually released a tool called XEE, and I wanted everyone to have a look at this, where what it allows you to do, and this is some examples too, by the way, what it allows you to do, it allows you to use the high volume endpoint, right? And it allows you to then bring in a collection. So whatever collection that you wanted to bring, specify an engine. In this case, what it's doing is the Xarray is using the Earth engine. And then it opens the data set with whatever scaling that you wanted to do. And you can basically run any kind of compute as though this data set was locally available to you. So think that you have a capability of interacting with the actual pixels without exporting the data out, which is super, super powerful. And you can then write it out as an etcdf file. You can write it as a TIFF file if you wanted to. You can do a bunch of other things. I would recommend going through the examples. There is actually also a talk on getting data in and out, which is, let's see. Yeah, this one. So I also recommend watching this talk. I gave this talk along with Gino and Alex and Matt. This one actually shows you the example on how to interact with the overall data set. So I'm going to just copy this link. But XE is really, really powerful. And I'm just going to say, so getting data out of GE. And here is the link. And I'm also going to copy the GitHub project. Now, this is open source. Alex, as a part of his role, wanted to make sure that this becomes open source. So he actually opened it up for anyone in the world to use. So have a look at it. There's going to be more tutorials on this. It's still extremely new. Like you can imagine, this just got released like what, in October. So it's still fairly new. There's still a lot of work to be done on making sure that this is stable enough. Quisheng, I, and a few others are doing some maintenance on this. We are also making sure that there are some examples. So Ujjwal, you all probably know about Ujjwal already from Spatial Thoughts. He and I and Quisheng, like we're all working on creating some examples for the community that hopefully we'll be able to publish as well, so others can use the package as needed. So yeah. There were some other announcements in terms of like European Union deforestation regulation. There was a great discussion on this. Again, a lot of this, and actually most of these, are available on the playlist that I initially posted about, so you'll be able to access that. Some of the other things that I really wanted to highlight, and maybe they're not actually mentioned here in Tyler's talk, was the fact that the community catalog actually now is mentioned in the Earth Engine data catalogs page. If you go to the Earth Engine data catalog, there's a section called community. If you click on that, we get a mention, and you will notice here there's a little bit of confusion, right? Because it says awesome community catalogs and 3 data sets. What this actually means is that these are the 3 data sets that are now actually visible in the main catalog, okay? And again, like I said, remember that GlobeAthi is now actually visible in the main catalog. So you can actually now go to code editor. I'm just going to code editor right now. And even though it's a data set that I uploaded, so if you click on GlobeAthi Global, it'll tell you that this is, hey, this is a community data set. It actually shows that. And if I click on it, it'll also tell you that this data set is part of community catalog, not managed by Google. You can email here for bugs and all of the other issues. But it's available. Like you can actually search for this within the main catalog, and you can import it. You can see an example the same way in which I was showing an example earlier, and it'll open up something. And if I hit run, then it'll basically run the data set as you were expecting. Okay, so this is an effort that basically was made this year. And the idea was really simple, that they wanted some of the data sets to be from the community catalog, right, to be visible within Earth Engine, to be searchable within Earth Engine. Now, for us to actually do that migration, it's extremely complicated and time consuming. And we also wanted to make sure that if we migrate everything, then a lot of people won't actually go to the GitHub repo to contribute more data sets. So we are doing a fine balance between like how many data sets do we want to move over to the main catalog so it's searchable versus how many data sets do we want to do. We're hoping that it's not that painful to actually just go to this website and look for the data set that because you can still search for GlobeAthi and you will still go to get to the page. And we have more description that's available here, link to the full paper, citation, all of those fun stuff. So all of those is also available here as well. So anyways, apart from that, I'm trying to think like if there's any larger announcements. I think XCE was the one large announcement and GMAP was the large announcements. There was really good talks on debugging. Noel does a great job at talking about Earth Engine debugging. There was a great talk on scaling Earth Engine. Like if you're doing a regional analysis that's looking at a very small region versus if you're looking at a global scale analysis, it's a much larger analysis. How would you actually do that? All of that is also there in those talks. So I would recommend basically dedicating an entire Saturday or Sunday and watching those talks if you wanted to. They're a lot of fun, and I've watched them myself. So I keep watching like once or twice, because I couldn't go to all of those sessions. I was talking at 3 different sessions, so I couldn't go to all of them. And I wanted to make sure that I was like, I have a way to get back to it. So register, go on demand, or simply go to the YouTube playlist, and you can watch all of the videos there as well. So, and I think most of the YouTube talks, like Earth Engine JavaScript or Easy Map Making, if they have slides, I believe the slides are linked. Yes, perfect. So you can actually watch them, but most importantly, the slide deck for this talk is also listed here. So you can actually open the link in new tab, and it'll just open up, and you can watch the talk. Okay, there's only like 7 minutes remaining, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen again, and I'm just going to spend the last few minutes taking questions, concerns, thoughts, anything else.
Okay, so thank you very much, Sam.
Sure.
So probably if anyone in the community has a question, it's open for Q&A. Or even a comment is good.
Has anyone actually used the community catalog before?
Okay. Okay. I think I can say something.
Sure.
I think I think I had seen it, though I haven't worked with it.
Okay.
But I think I saw it somewhere.
Okay.
And now I'm seeing it very powerful. Probably I will try to use it.
Yes, please do.
In one of the projects. Yes.
Let me know if you have some thoughts or concerns. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think I already shared my email. If not, I mean, I was sharing my email when I was actually creating the issue, the GitHub issue, but I'm going to share my email here as well. So I'm, as part of the efforts that I'm doing, I'm also a Google developer expert for Google Earth Engine, which means I also get to work closely with the Google Earth Engine team. So if there's pressing thoughts or concerns, things like that, it's also my role and responsibility to sometimes highlight those concerns back to the Earth Engine team. So you can also email me if you wanted to. Don't flood me with emails. I can't take care of any, like most of the things are not under my control, but I can at least make sure I highlight some of these. So don't flood me with like 25 emails or something like that. But feel free to email me with thoughts and concerns. I enjoy talking to the community as needed. So. Well, okay. If there's no other questions, Nicholas, anything else?
Yeah, so for me, I would also want to ask something.
Sure.
Like, do you have some case projects that could have been developed using the data from the Earth Engine community catalog?
Do I have what? Sorry, I missed that first part. Sorry, go ahead.
Case projects that have used community catalog data.
So I know that there are papers that have used the community catalog, because if you go into, let's see, community datasets, I can't remember if I call it datasets or catalog. There are actually papers that have used the community catalog and they have cited us. So which is really important, by the way, that I know that all of the papers have their own citation, but if you go to the main page, we have a citation too. So you can actually cite us as the effort that we like, and you'll see a lot of the people that I include here are people who will create like pull requests on the GitHub repo. So if you come here and if you come to the community catalog, and all of these people who will create these, you'll see the contributors list. These are people who will sometimes create like a pull request and make improvements. So all of these people have at some point or the other said, Sam, there's some issue here. Can you change this, or can you make this better, or something like that? So to answer your question, Nicholas, yes, there are examples of people utilizing these data sets to then do the main work. Sometimes they will cite our catalog itself, but sometimes they will just cite the main paper, which is completely fine, by the way. I don't really mind that they're just citing the main paper. We would like it if people cite our catalog as well. But otherwise, what they're doing is they're coming in, they're going to a specific data set that they want to use. They're going to the citation here, and they're basically copying this citation and utilizing that. So visibility is kind of limited there. But I'm pretty sure that a lot of people, I get emails and I get like LinkedIn messages of people who are like, okay, we've used your data set. It was super helpful for my thesis or for my project. Continue doing what you're doing. So, which is what keeps me going. So, yeah.
All right. So that's very exciting, because even for us, during our last session this week, we had a member of our community who was asking about the enterology data, and you see now this is made possible in the community catalog. So this is really exciting and also helpful for us and for the entire community. So I think the community is really benefiting from your work, and we really much appreciate. So at this time, I don't know if the members have anything to ask, any question, any comment. Probably you can feel free to open up your mic before we close this few seconds. All the members, any comment, any question? Okay. So, right. So,
thank you for coming to the talk. If there's any questions or things like that, follow up with me on the email that I shared, and let me know. I'm happy to chat again.
All right. So, thank you very much. Michael, please, you can say closing remarks, then we close the meeting. Michael?
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So thank you so much, Nick, for that for this opportunity. From my side, I think I would really express like very big thanks to Sampriya Roy for that nice presentation, especially having to really put emphasis on the community, awesome community catalog. It is really nice. You realize that it has got so many, some of the data sets that we are missing right from the main catalog. It's really informative, and also having emphasized on the fact, or rather on the highlights that were discussed during the Geo for Good 2023. He has done it well, and uh, on part of the community. Basically, I'm also part of the lead of Nairobi GeoDef. I want to express thanks to you from Bria for that nice presentation, and we are looking forward to having you again here so that you can even highlight more on the other facts that we look into the future. Yeah.
Sounds
So
great. Great.
yes. So in the near future, we can also be able to look upon you so that you can maybe come back and present again. So thank you so much for
You're
your
welcome.
time. Yeah, I know it's not very easy, in fact, from your side also, but we are really appreciated.
Of course.
Your
It was a pleasure.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks again, everyone. Take care. See ya.
All right. So thank you very much,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank
We
you.
are really
Bye.
much grateful. So bye bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.